Come on. Let's go. Come on, buddy boy. Let's go. Come on.
Oh man, it is shit eating snotty out there. Absolutely pouring down and washing all the snow away. Dark, foggy, dismal, gross, disgusting. So I'm sitting in the old shop drying out a bunch of tack, soggy saddles and blankets, and I go blast out some emails. And I go out back. I said I was going to try to get an email out loaded onto the YouTube at least every day of the month, one or two or more, and try to get caught up in all the people that I've emailed in. And it's a fair chunk of work, but you can preload the videos. So obviously there's a couple screw ups there with a couple of videos prematurely loading and some of them double loading, on and on. And accidents, mistakes were definitely expected. I mean, I just did 40 something days straight running around the mountains. I'm pretty wiped out. And then when you try to go home and eat and stay awake and do some editing and loading on YouTube, it's not going to go that smooth, right? When you're sleep deprived, big time. But anyway, bunch of emails here. I just took the minute out, first time ever, to edit one in. It didn't have one. I think it has like 2 or 3 periods and about 5 paragraphs worth. But anyway, before I start babbling too much, let me get on with reading a couple emails, then we'll see if we can share some thoughts, alright? You can probably hear the rain up there, and the token helicopter as well, non-stop. There's a small airport across the valley, across the river. It's so annoying. Helicopters annoy the shit out of me. Okay, listen to this. Hi Steve, thanks for coming forward and admitting that you know about the forest people. 4 years ago I didn't know. I thought they were a story to scare kids. But I learned one night out camping with my aunt that they're real. I was wearing thick socks and covered in blankets when I heard one approach. It at first sounded like someone riding a horse up, then it turned into bipedal and made scuffing noises like someone not picking up their feet wearing slippers. I heard a scuff off the bark, off the tree, then it grabbed my foot. Yes, I was curled up, but when it started measuring my foot with its hand, I tried kicking it. It was like pushing with your foot onto a brick wall. My legs are not wimpy. I used to ice skate and do a lot of hiking. Since then I know they are real. I'm not sure why, but it seems they know where I am now, even though I moved from Michigan to Indiana. I still have encounters and have communicated with them. They wanted me to go into the woods with them, but my dad's cousin walked into a cornfield and disappeared. I didn't want to be on a missing flyer, so I told them I couldn't. And this is what they had to say. Remain humble. If you stay, remain humble. I sent an email to a First Nation elder because I had questions. They never messaged me back. I can feel when they are near. It's an energy I pick up. And no matter where I am, they can communicate with me. I know this is what they call the woo side, but I swear it's real. When you can't find tracks on the ground, look for a long mark, like a stick, was dragged. Or look for circles. They hide their tracks by walking on fingers and toes. I've heard them laugh, sob, growl, scream, and that growl that they do vibrates through you. It will freeze you where you stand. I'm not sure, but I think the message they want is for humanity to stay humble. Anyhow, thanks for your time. Sincerely, Sherry. Alright, Sherry. Well, it's for you. Like I told everybody, I don't cherry pick the emails. You email me, I get to it, I'm gonna read it. And I didn't read this previously. I have had numerous people contact me and say they communicate with these beings. And I'm definitely not the person that can say they do or don't. But I have said to 100% of you who said you communicate with these beings, if that's the case, then I want you to ask them one question only for me. Ask them who is continually tracking them down to kill them, or who is killing them. Who are they scared of and why? That's all I want to know. And so far, to date, 100% of the people who have told me they communicate with them have not gotten back to me after I asked to pass on that question. So, and nobody's actually gotten back to me to tell me why they haven't communicated with them with my question. In fact, not one person who has told me they communicate with them has got back to me after I said to ask them a question at all. So, Sherry, if you're in contact with these beings, drop that one on them and get back to us ASAP with the honest answer. And we're looking forward to it. All right? Here's another one. Hey, Steve, just want to start by saying I found your YouTube channel weeks back. I watched the video where you guided that guy that was on meth. And I've been hooked ever since. Hopefully not on meth. I'm just kidding. Especially when I saw your video about Sasquatch. I'm 22 years old now from central Mississippi. My name is Jordan Cook. You can use my name. I really don't care what people think. I've had two different experiences while hunting that I just can't explain, so here's my story. I was 12 or 13 when I had my first encounter, so to speak. It was right around mid-December. Rut was starting to really kick off, so I was hunting very heavily. Late one evening about dusk, I heard something, what I'm guessing, to the right at 100 yards, off straight in front of me. It was making the loudest racket coming through young pine trees. As it got closer, it made this awful loud roar. It was short and came deep from the bottom of the gut. I could almost feel it. It would make the sound every 30 seconds or so. As it got closer, I realized it was snapping limbs out of the trees at least 10 feet off the ground. I never saw it, but it got really close. The footsteps were definitely something walking on 2 feet, and the footsteps were extremely heavy. I was terrified. I wanted to climb out of the tree stand, but my body just wouldn't let me. Finally it left and I climbed down. The place I was hunting made you always feel like you weren't the only person or thing in the woods with you, and boy do I believe it. I told my dad and he didn't believe me, nor did my brother. The second time I experienced something like this was 17. My brother and I were hunting a food plot in the swamp not far from my house. It was late in the evening once again. As we got ready to leave, we heard two distinct tree knocks about 150-200 yards straight in front of us. We could hear whatever it was leave and could hear the footsteps that far. We were the only people in the swamp, so it was no human. I've never saw these things, but I definitely know we're not the only ones out there. It hasn't kept me from hunting because it's something I live and breathe. I just pay a tad more attention now. There's been multiple other things just like this happen about 5 to 7 miles of crow flies from my house. It feels good to share my story, especially after hearing other people's story and seeing all the similarities in them and mine. Thank you for always speaking the truth and informing our people about these things. Once again, thank you, Steve. Okay, man, thanks for emailing me. And if you could, I'd like you to pass this video on to your family members that don't believe you, okay? And what I have to say to you, sir, or you people is, how sad is it when your own child or relative cannot come to you for support, to share something they saw what they didn't ask for? How sad of a state is that you may potentially be in right now with your family member, your son, your daughter, your wife, your aunts, your cousins, whoever. That's very, very weak and very, very sad. I had to talk about that with a friend of mine a few years ago, a short one, to try to give him a little head shake, because his son had seen two of these things and he kind of shrugged it off and laughed at it. And I know his son was quite upset about it, and I know for 100% fact his son didn't ask for that experience. So I kind of gave him shit. I'm like, look, you dumbasses, why do you actually think your son or daughter would make that up for attention? Do you think they asked for that experience? So that can obviously frustrate me quite a bit as well. So I suggest to you people who laugh at your relative, your sons, your daughters, your brothers, your sisters, get your head out of your ass and man up and play the role you're supposed to play. You're the man. You're built to protect the family. Got it? And if you question your children's experience what they share with you, just watch a bunch of the videos on my channel and get clued in and jump on the knowledge bandwagon, all right? Because what you're doing is very, very cruel and very damaging, okay? Now, getting back on with it, what else have we got next in line? Hey Steve, I just want to say I love the channel and keep doing what you're doing. I've shared this story before to some close friends. Some took me seriously, and the others just seemed to laugh. The ones who laughed are the ones who spend minimal time in the outdoors. Not that I have to prove myself, but for the sake of the story, I'll let you know I've spent more time in the woods than most grown men. I'm only 23, with multiple solo sheep hunts and countless solo elk hunts, with several of them being successful. So long story short, I have good eyes and I know what I see when I see it. To begin the story, I was visiting a friend who was working in the Peace region of Alberta, and I planned on staying with him a few nights, and while he was at working, I would hunt elk. We ended up having quite the night at the local bar and didn't end up sleeping till roughly 4 a.m. I've had a few of those nights in Alberta myself, actually in the Peace region to boot. Oh, to be in the 20s again, right? But I was there to hunt elk, so I was up after an hour's sleep and off to my spot. I will admit I was dehydrated and tired, but the elk sign I was seeing was keeping me on full alert. After walking and calling for about 4 kilometers down an old cut line, I came to a slough and there it was. My first thought was, why the hell is there a guy in a ghillie suit sitting on that hill looking over the pond? The pond was full of ducks, I might add. I could feel the gaze of this thing staring right at me. When I pulled out my binoculars, it would turn its head. When I pulled out my binoculars to look, it would turn its head. As soon as I put my binoculars down, I could feel its gaze burning through me. At no time did I feel threatened or anything of the sort. I kept checking over and over with my binoculars, but every time I lifted them to my eyes, it would turn its head and look away. This is when I realized there's no way in hell I'm staring at a human being. I did not feel fear, to be honest. I was completely calm. The creature I was looking at never moved a muscle besides turning its head. It was very large, and I had a perfect look at it for minutes. Sitting on a small open hillside no more than 250 yards away, I still can't believe I didn't take a picture. Not that my story would be any more relevant if I had a photo. After a couple of minutes of watching this thing, I decided that maybe I should just leave. I walked about 100 yards back up the hill towards the truck, where I lost sight of the being for maybe a minute. I turned back to look one more time, and it was nowhere to be seen. I should also add it was very dark in color, nearly black, but still brown, similar to our Canadian moose. The hair was long and shaggy, not short fur. I couldn't give you a height because it was sitting down, but it had incredibly wide shoulders, and I guessed it at around 400 pounds plus. After I got back to the truck, I went back to the farm and had supper with my friend and his boss, and I never mentioned what I'd seen that day. I hunted the next couple of days as a private land and actually had a small 5x5 come to my calls. There was a range road between me and him, and all he had to do was jump the fence and he was mine. Sadly, a white truck full of guys drove by and shot him right on the road. That sucks ass. Oh well. Discouraged, I packed up and headed home. I've yet to go back and hunt that area, but I would sure like to again someday. I'm still baffled at the calm feelings I had that day because when I played over my head, I should be freaking the F out. It's almost as if the being knew I meant no harm, and therefore I meant me no harm. It is something that it will stay in my mind forever, and has not impacted my love for the outdoors in the slightest. Before I end this, I want to add there is only one way into that spot. I seen the creature, and I was the only truck parked there. Not a farmer's field for miles, just thick poplar ridges and slough bottoms. Steve, if you want to share my name, that's fine. It's Carter. Thanks for sharing my story, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this experience. Cheers. Okay, Carter, thanks for that email, man. Like I said to people previous, if you are seeking out this channel on YouTube as a topic, and you went out of your way to make this email to me about that experience, you already know what it was you saw. Alright, there's nothing I can say that's going to change that. And also for all you people, what I want to share with you is, what you want to think about is, when you see something or see photographs or have an experience and you want to run it by me and see what I think of it, I want you to understand that I am you. Alright? There's no authority on this topic. There's a lot of people who investigate, there's a lot of people that want to be in front of the video camera, but what I'm saying is the second you see one of these beings, you become that expert. You know nearly as much as everybody else on the planet the second you see one, okay? And I am not the person who is going to assure you whether or not a photograph is authentic or if some tree structures mean anything. I'm just not that person. I'm not that person, all right? I am a person who knows these beings exist. I'm a person who's not scared to share it, and I'm not scared to share it for you. All right, and hopefully this, and it is, we're multiplying rapidly and becoming very, very strong and very, very knowledgeable as a group. All right, that's what we're doing here. So for me, when I read your story, what am I thinking? Instantly I think, well, here's another one. Here's another person who's seen one. What was that dude? What was that being doing on that hill? Obviously he was caught by you looking at it. I've got a funny suspicion myself that when a human being's eyes, your gaze contacts, it's almost as if these things are caught and they're frozen, like, oh shit, now I gotta remain in sight until they look away and then I can disappear. Because that seems what happens more often than not. The second somebody looks away for a second, looks back, they're gone. But as long as you keep your gaze locked on them, it's almost like they got no escape. If they're sitting there, you know what I mean? Obviously a lot of them run away and run out of your sight, but it just seems that more often than not, when a human eyeballs lock onto these beings, it's almost like, we gotcha. You're in my sight, and you can't leave it. It's almost like that's what's happening. Because, like I said earlier, the second you glance away, even for a second look back, they're gone. So, for all you people that think that you may react appropriately or calmly, and you may be able to pull your camera out and take a picture of them, if you ever have that happen, you're caught in that situation, I strongly suggest you do not take your eyes off that being once for 1 second. You keep locked on them, because I almost think it keeps them frozen in place, and you get your camera out and don't look at it, and hopefully you can get it going and take a picture without taking your eyes off that being. Who knows, it's just an idea of mine, but you never know. But anyway, thanks again, Carter, for sending an email in. You know as well as I do, you go back hunting that spot and put in the time, you're going to pull that bull out of there no matter what gets shot on the road. That's probably not going to happen that often or every time, right? So never give up, obviously. And if something something else arises from you going out there, make sure you email back and share it with us. But number one, first and foremost, do not be scared of people. Do not be scared to share this knowledge with people, all right? Because it's very, very important that we keep sharing with people.